So Bruce Lee, that's L-E, not L-E-E, was just one of many imitations of Bruce Lee who sprung up defiantly after the real deal was murdered for teaching Kung Fu to non-Chinese. Well, that's what the internet taught me anyway, at least internet scuttlebutt. Either it was that or a tragic but fully explainable natural cause, but who's to say? I prefer to think it was the former myself. That's more fun. And the premise of Enter the Game of Death is strange, unusual, and incoherent, even by Lear-like standards. First off, we see a great opening sequence against a red backdrop where Bruce Lee, that's L-E, demonstrates his martial arts prowess to the soundtrack of Enter the Dragon, of course. And then we're thrust into the action of this 1 hour and 20-minute epic, which is basically a scene-for-scene copy of Game of Death on about a tenth of the budget. So we further see Bruce Lee, that's Bruce L-E, established as a bit of a badass when he takes on Bolo Yueng and a bunch of goons in a forest. The goons don't look especially intimidating, but I guess the 70s was like now. You had to sort of get by with whatever goons you could hire. So war's looming apparently, and China's worried about getting invaded by Japan. That's sort of the setup to it. And this is set in the 1930s, which you might want to keep in mind while you're watching, because otherwise it does get really confusing, seeing as everyone's dressed like they're from 1978. And apparently there's a top secret document hidden at the top of a Chinese pagoda, which will win the war for China if Japan invade. So Bruce is hired by a Chinese espionage group to retrieve the document. The only problem is each and every floor is protected by a bit of a highly skilled martial artist, or at least the most highly skilled martial artists that the producers could afford at the time. I think there's a Shaolin monk. There's a snake collector who obviously fights like a snake. There's a demonically possessed guy. And there's another guy. There's a bit of a spoiler alert when Bruce Lee, that's L-E, gets to the top of the tower. But if I give that away, you'll have an out-and-out reason not to watch, and we can't have that now, can we? So this has all the fun Lear-like and Bruce Lee tropes that we've come to expect from one of these Lear-like movies from the 70s and the 80s. It has all the mannerisms down pat. Bruce does the nose thing, of course, and has all the moves phonetically memorized, I guess you'd say. The only thing that Bruce Lee, L-E, not L-E-E, kind of lacks, I guess, is a bit of stage presence, a bit of screen presence. He frankly looks a bit more like like the guy that should be doing the carpentry on set or the painting on set than the leading man, but it is what it is. As I said, it was the late 70s, I guess, or mid to late 70s, so producers had to take what they could get. Just got a train going by. So this has all the continuity of a Bruce Lee movie. But where was I? Yeah, so obviously Bruce Lee was the best of the best that they could find that would work for cheap at the time, and had a reasonable amount of martial arts prowess, so we are left with him. What with the little dragon gone and all that. So the opening sequence to this one's interesting, as with a lot of these Bruce movies, these Bruceploitation movies. It's set against a red background, and we're feasted to a feast of the senses as Bruce fights vases, punching bags, and various goons. And I kind of suspect, after seeing so many of these movies, that these opening sequences were just the show reel that they shot when they were auditioning for the role, and they've decided to, in the best sense of being environmentally friendly, they've recycled these show reels and basically repurposed them as opening credit sequences. So the makers of these movies were the original environmentalists in that fashion. They were never afraid to recycle plot points, characters, or even footage. So what can I say about Enter the Game of Death? It's a little more highbrow, I guess, than most of these Lear-like movies in concept. It has the whole espionage concept, so Bruce is, of course, trying to get this document from the top of the tower that's going to save the world or prevent the war or something. It's never fully explained. And as I said, it does get a bit confusing if you don't keep reminding yourself that it is supposed to be the early 1930s because everyone is dressed like they're in the mid to late 70s. So you do need to use your imagination a lot with watching these Bruce Lee movies, but I don't think we get enough of that nowadays with ChatGPT and all of the rest of it. We need these classic films that did require us to use our imagination to leap and bound past the gaps in logic and the gaps in budget. So, a cool little movie. It'd make a great little double bill, of course, with any of the Lee-alike movies. It'd probably be great with the clones of Bruce Lee, or with Bruce Lee in New Guinea, or with Bruce Lee fights back from the grave. Any one of those would be great. And definitely worth your time if you have a lazy Sunday set aside and you're after something entertaining, something not too taxing, with a bit of a historical element, albeit a shonky historical element of being set in the days before World War II, but looking like the days of 1975 or 1978. So, yeah, that is Enter the Game of Death, starring Bruce Lee. That's L-E, not L-E-E. And if this is your first time visiting the channel, if you enjoyed this review, I try and upload about once a week. Also trying to do these little mini documentaries, I guess you'd call them, on horror exploitation, cult film luminaries, whether actors or directors or special effects artists or composers or whatever. So just a couple of little things I'm trying here. If you did enjoy this content, you'd like to find out more, please like, share and subscribe. And I hope to see you next time.